What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 39 of the Let's Talk Nerdy podcast. On this episode, we are talking GreedFall 2, Dying World, Outcast New Beginnings, KIBORG, and Enotria, The Last Song.
I want to talk about me. I want to talk about I want to talk about the number one. Oh me, oh my.
I know who that is, Mr. Toby Keith. One of my favorite songs of all time. Want to talk about me, want to talk about I, want to talk about number one.
If I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer.
You are now tuned in to the Let's Talk Nerdy podcast.
I love it when you talk nerdy to me.
I told you I was going to do it. I told you.
You know what's funny? Like with songs that you like absolutely love, you know every word to them, but you don't know all the words unless the song's actually playing. You know what I mean? Like I'm like trying to think of all the lyrics. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna start rambling off the lyrics. I'm like, okay, that's about all I know off the top of my head. But as soon as the beat's on and like you hear him singing, you're like, oh, I know every word that's coming up. It's so weird how that works.
It's 100% true. There's a Wu-Tang song that I absolutely love called Triumph. The song is like 7 minutes long. I know every single word to that song, but if I try to rap it without the beat, I am lost within like the first 30 seconds. But if that track is going, I'm just like, boom, atomically, Socrates, philosophy. I'm just nonstop
awesome.
The whole way through, dude. It's crazy.
That's how I am with another song that I like completely. This is my number one song. Like I love that song a lot, but my complete number one song, I'm probably gonna get like, why is that your number one song? That's kind of stupid. But "Bleeding Love" by Leona Lewis. I love that song more than any song ever. Keep bleeding, I keep. Oh, it's so good. I don't know what about that song. It's so good to me.
Adam just keeps picking the lyrics for next week without even knowing it.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. And then probably not one to put in the top beginning of our episode, but the Lonely Island song, I Just Had Sex. I know every single word to that one too.
That's a great song.
When I do karaoke, that's a song I pick. It gets the crowd grooving.
It's a fantastic song. Just follow that up with Dick in a Box and you're good to go.
My friend, she followed it up with Colt 45.
Okay, that's even better. Yeah,
right.
That's great.
But what's up, man? How you been? What's your week like? What you been playing?
Week is good. Actually, nothing too crazy. Not gonna lie. I haven't been playing much. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't really been playing much. But other than that, just kind of hanging out. I did not get the cast iron pan that I was supposed to get, and that was a huge L. But yeah, just been taking it. We just been taking it easy here. Just trying to get, we're trying to get the content out for you guys. So I've been focusing on that.
Yeah, that's kind of been awesome. I've been playing simulator games. I know you've been seeing me play some American Truck Sim. I don't know what about these games that I love so much, but the simulator games are so fun to me, and I've been enjoying that a lot. Also still enjoying a lot of Dragon Ball Z. I'm on episode 40 of Dragon Ball Z, so I've been cruising through, got through the first Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz fights, and they are so cool. I don't know why, but it's so cool. I'm becoming a true fan of Dragon Ball Z, and I'm loving it. So
you are 100% becoming like a Dragon Ball Z connoisseur, dude.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this.
I love it.
And I will say the trucking simulator, so fun. That's so fun. That's so fun, guys. If you are not following Adam on Twitch, the Nerd Adam, please jump over and give him a follow because watching that trucking simulator is absolutely hilarious. There's so many things that we do while he's trying to be a good truck driver and deliver these loads. But you could literally stop his truck on a dime. You could make him speed through red lights. It's a great time. It's a great time.
It's definitely fun. It's super fun. And on top of that, I for sure broke this rib. We were kind of talking about this before the episode, but my car broke down, right? Well, I broke my rib playing basketball, but the reason why I think this is like truly broken now, so my car broke down and I'm trying to like get onto the ground. Let me tell you, laying on cement with like any type of injury to your rib is impossible. Like I was like groaning in pain, and the problem with my car is like I have to pop my hood from underneath it because like the cable broke. So I had to jack it up, get on the ground, pop the hood with a screwdriver, and that was no easy task because I couldn't like roll and it was so bad. So been dealing with that, and to come to find out, the reason why our car is kind of funky is there was a nest of mice in our engine, like in the like under the cover, like the engine cover, like for protection and stuff. There's a mouse in it. So I took it to the shop and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And the guy's like, all right, pop the hood. So I jack it up at the shop so I could get it open for him. And then he's like, all right, let me take a look. He connected his computer and then he just lifted the engine cover and he's like, well, this is part of your problem. There's like dead mice in here. And like this dude, like, and like, I'm super happy and super thankful that he got me in so quick today. But
Yeah.
just imagine like a small town, like Midwestern car auto shop guy. Just puts his hand in there, grabs the mice, and just throws them out. Nothing. He's like, oh, there's your problem. He's like, you see the mice chewing on there? And I was like, yeah, thank you for taking care of that part. I would have got gloves and all this stuff, but yeah, he just went right in, no hesitation. So I'm sure he's seen it a lot, like stuff like that, especially like when the weather's changing and things like that. But so that's what I've been dealing with.
That's a man's man. That's a man's man right there.
Yeah.
That dude drinks straight from the bottle all the time. Yeah. That dude has no quality. He's the dude that runs outside without shoes on. Don't need him. Need him. Just go. Yeah. No. I wish to one day be that manly.
It was so funny. He's like, and he was a bigger dude, like a big dude. And he's like, I was like, all right, I'm just going to leave it here tonight. He's like, you don't have to. And I was like, well, I kind of have to because it's hard to drive. It kind of chugs along. And then I was like, do you want me to leave the hood open? He's like, yes, do not make me get on the ground for this. I was like, all right, man, that's all good. So, but that's what I've been dealing with today. I'm super happy that I got it in. It's going to be done tomorrow. I got it in today, going to be done tomorrow. So can't complain. But in other news, we got some, not really a big announcement, but kind of a community,
Don't sell yourself short. This is a big announcement. This is big.
I mean, I guess. I mean, it's a community involvement thing. That's all it is, really. Yeah.
That's big.
Okay, that's true, I guess. All right.
We got a big announcement, guys.
Big announcement. We have a new Let's Talk Nerdy Discord to continue to talk take our conversations offline if you guys want to join in that as well, which is linked down below, but also in our little links section on YouTube. So if you want to check that out, make sure to do so because we'd love to have you part of our conversations all the time. And if you have any things you want to talk to us about, join in. We'd love to have you. Let's Talk Nerdy Discord.
Absolutely would love to have you. And again, Adam put this all together. I was just a complete waste of nothing, and I did not have any great ideas for him. So yeah, please join the Discord. It is absolutely phenomenal. There's so many channels in there. There's so many good things. We've already had conversations going about games that we're excited about. So we know, some things that we're definitely going to be covering in the future. And there's a lot of good people in that Discord. So we would love to have you. Please jump in, join the Discord, say hello, and jump in the conversation. We're chatting all day.
We are chatting all day. One more thing I'd like to say, it is a new Discord, and like Dave said, we're not the most experts in Discord, so there might be a lot of changes coming in as we learn more about how Discord works, but feel free to jump in. Love to have you. And one more thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about a game that's not on our list tonight, if that's okay with you, Dave, before we jump in.
Throwing a wrench in the plan. Let's go.
Yeah, wrench in the plan.
Off the cuff. Okay. I love it.
Everybody has been telling you and me both to play Helldivers 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna have to jump into Helldivers 2 at some point together.
I think we have to. Yeah, I think at this point it's kind of mandatory.
Yeah, because I know I think it looks like a really cool game, and I know I maybe had a hot take on saying I didn't think it looked more exciting than Suicide Squad, but the more that I've watched, the more that they're doing with the game, it seems really cool. So Dave, I just want to say that we're probably gonna have to play Helldivers 2 at some point together and involve some of the people that have been telling us to play it.
We are most likely probably going to have to play Helldivers 2. As you guys know, not the biggest shooter guy. Definitely not the biggest shooter guy. I don't know how many people we can have when we play this game, but I just want to throw out there an invitation to anybody. The more the merrier, because I'm gonna need I'm gonna be a backpack in this game. I'm gonna need to be carried. You know what I'm saying?
And that's kind of how I'm thinking too, because it looks like a hard game. Like if you just jump in and you're not really sure what to do, it seems like it might be kind of hard. So we're gonna jump into that, I think, at some point. I will say one more thing about it. Avoid. I know this is kind of just news about it. There's a big scam on Steam right now, so avoid that. There's another game claiming to be Helldivers 2, what it is not Helldivers 2 whatsoever, and it's like a scam. So be careful. Keep an eye out for that. Yeah. So keep an eye on that for that. But we will get into that game at some point.
I have questions. How are they scamming? How can you do that?
They're like, it's a fake game, and then like people are just buying this fake game, and I'm guessing they're gonna get shut down, or it's another game that's like Helldivers 2, but it's just not the Helldivers 2, I guess.
Very sneaky.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
Yeah, because or maybe they took it down. They might have taken it down. I don't see it in Steam right now. All I see is the true one, which is $40, and then this, yeah. So that looks like the real version, but just keep an eye on that just in case there's a link to it or something. But other than that, let's jump into our first topic of the night, Dave. GreedFall 2.
Adam,
excited?
Are you excited for this game?
I have some thoughts on it. I will say there's
Adam's
some things.
Not excited.
No, hold on, Dave. You didn't let me get into it a little bit. I really like the setting of this game. I really like I just thought it looks really neat. And I was trying to do my research. I didn't play the first one, obviously. It's not my typical type of game. But from what I've read and the things I've seen, is it going to be completely different or different in a lot of ways?
I don't think it's going to be different in a lot of ways, but I do think it's going to be a different experience from the first one. I'm glad you brought this up. So just a quick recap on the first one, if you guys have never played it, because this game actually, the first one did come out quite a while ago. I mean, there's been a little bit of a gap here. I know games are typically in development for a couple years, but this has been a little bit of a gap to the point where like I was kind of assuming that we wouldn't see a GreedFall 2 just because that much time has passed. But in the first game, you play your character. Where you're kind of residing is like it's kind of like this like early civilization style game. And your character is kind of dealing with what is known as the Malachor plague, and this plague is kind of spreading all throughout, right? And the main kind of goal of the game here is that you are going to be traveling to a new island, which is Tier 4D. And the goal of traveling to this new island is to try to figure out a cure for the plague, and it's kind of like the best way that I can kind of relate to it is kind of like a coming to America story, like a Christopher Columbus type thing, where you're going to this new world and kind of exploring and everything like that. And it was a really cool game. And then once you get to the island, you're kind of dealing with the natives that are there, and you're also dealing with these really large beasts, which was really cool. That's how they introduced like those big style boss fights into the game that I'm a huge fan of. And those beasts and the natives are kind of like seen as guardians of the land, right? And your whole goal here is to fight your way through the politics, find a cure for this Malachor plague. And it was a really good game. I thought it was a really good game. I'm not going to spoil it, but it has a ton of good lore. It has a great storyline. It's got multiple endings. And it was really good. I thought it was a really good game. And now, fast forward to GreedFall 2, if you want to pull up the trailer.
It's almost like a rewind, though. So it's a sequel, but it takes place 3 years before the events of the first one.
It's a sequel, but it's almost like a prequel, and like it, but it's not. It's like the story starts before the story of GreedFall, but it kind of plays out throughout the entire story of GreedFall, so it's taking place at the same time. But the big twist here is, guys, if you're just listening, what we're looking at right now, that's absolutely brutal.
Yeah, chopped off his arm.
Yeah, we just saw somebody's arm get chopped off. But what you're looking at right now is you're seeing what I believe is going to be the main character for this game. And the big kind of flip here is, instead of this time being a settler that's coming to the land, you're actually playing as a native who is already living on this land, watching all of these settlers come from a different area and seeing like how this interacts with your life. and it's pretty cool because you get to see the flip side of the story. And
Hmm.
especially if you were a GreedFall 1 player, it's kind of cool to see this story from an opposite side, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
I think it's cool that they're kind of like working in the same timeline, but giving you like the other side of the story.
Hmm.
And right now, like I think this is one of the most intriguing things to me is like we're seeing this really badass action sequence. Like your character is like handcuffed right now, and she breaks free and is just like causing absolute mayhem for all these settlers. And I think it looks really, really interesting. And then
Yeah.
this is the part that really gets to me. We're looking at 4 characters, and this like gigantic beast just crawls out of the ground, and I was probably sold at that, right?
Yep, yep. That's all Dave needed is just one epic boss in this game, and he's like, "Yep, I'm in."
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, like, so that the scene and the cinematics of this seems really cool. Um, and I know there's a lot that there's not a bunch on the gameplay yet, aside from a couple things that the producers like talked about. Essentially, she says that it's going to be a much more ambitious than the first game, and I have a question about that because I know from things I've read and watched, the gameplay of the first one wasn't all that great. Like it was more sold the game was more sold on the fact of the lore was so good and the cinematics were so good, not so much the gameplay. Do you think that with what she's saying, they're gonna do it more right in terms of the gameplay this time, or do you think that it's still gonna be sold based off of the lore?
So I think the lore is going to put a heavy hand here. I still think it's going to be a story driven game, and people are going to love it for the story. But they did really take into account all of the comments from players of the first game. That, like you said, the combat was a little lackluster, and I'll agree with it. It really was. And I just want to throw out here, I know people are calling this a Souls like, but I don't know, dude. Like I play a lot of Souls like games. I wouldn't classify it as a Souls like. It felt like more of a hack and slash to me.
I was gonna say, like, I didn't think even like the first Greedfall, like I was watching the gameplay of it, I didn't have the true sense of like, oh, this is another Souls like that Dave wants me to check out. Like I didn't have that feel. It's got those like some similar mechanics, but the way it played a lot different than what I'm used to seeing in like games like Bloodborne and things like you show me all the time. And so I didn't think it looked like a and I think that's partially why I'm a little bit more interested. I'm like, okay, maybe that's why I'm a little bit more intrigued. And I also think going on the fact that they're calling it more ambitious, the fact that they're going to do an early access, I think is going to really help them too. With this game, which is coming out this summer, and so that's going to help them get even more feedback of the game and what they can do to improve it instead of just releasing it and going from there. So
Yeah. And they do kind of say that they're focusing a lot more on tactical combat, and when they say something like that, it gives me a lot of hope for the gameplay because like we talked about, honestly I don't want to be a broken record, but I'm not really sure why people call this a Souls like. I mean, I've seen this referred to as a Souls like a lot, and it's really not that. It really is more of a hack and slash. And the thing about the first Greedfall was it was one of those games that, like, the challenge of it never really kind of escalated at all. Like, I got to a certain point in Greedfall where it's like, if you had your setup the way that you wanted it and you got very comfortable with the combat, it was like a legit, just like pretty easy button masher. Like I didn't struggle with anything, you know what I mean? And it's not like I was like being very mindful of my move set. I mean, I was literally just kind of like running through endgame, just spamming the crap out of buttons and just mutilating people, which like it was fun. It was fun for a little while, but I mean, towards the end there, you're kind of like, all right, is this going to get any harder? Because I feel like I'm just murking everybody. Yeah. So I mean, a more tactical combat is great. I think that's great. I think it's going to do wonders for the game because people, like we said, people do call it a Souls like, and people expecting a Souls like experience want a challenging game, and it didn't deliver on that, but. I have hopes for the combat system, and a lot like you said with the early access. It's actually more of a big deal than it is probably commonplace because and I know a lot of people are saying like, why is there early access for a single player story game? But For this game specifically, it kind of makes sense. So this game is being developed by Spiders, and if you know anything about Spiders, um, their games are good from a lore standpoint. They always seem to tell a great story, but they are kind of known in the industry for this janky, not great gameplay. So I think the early access is really, really good because it shows that they're gonna take the time to get feedback from the community, and make the gameplay as good as it can possibly be, which is great news.
The one thing that I kind of found, I don't want to say annoying, but kind of disappointing in the early access is the saves won't be compatible between the updates. And I find that really frustrating, especially like I don't know how far you'll get to go in the early access, but let's say you get like a quarter of the way, like it's gonna be a quarter of the way in the story. And then every time they update, you have to restart. Like that's kind of frustrating to me. I wish they wouldn't do it like that.
I think I have an idea of exactly why they're doing that. So, typically when developers do this like early access type of thing, right? I feel like they already kind of have an idea of what's wrong with the game, right? And they kind of just want to confirm their suspicions in an early access. The thing with Spiders is we talked about it is we talked about it, they're kind of known for janky gameplay, and they might not really know exactly what the issues are. And I think what they want you to do is play a specific section of the game, give your feedback. They're going to fix that specific section of the game, and then they want you to replay it to make sure that it's fixed.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
They want that like assurance that you're going to replay it after they fix it and then give them the feedback of like, okay, it's good now. You know what I mean? Whereas most developers don't really need that.
Because I'm guessing is Spiders a more like a smaller developer? I don't want to say small. Is it more not a triple A developer? Are they like
No, no, no. Yeah, it's not a triple A developer. In fact, they're usually kind of known for these like one-off games, but GreedFall was their most successful title of all time, which makes sense of why they're making a sequel. Because yeah, they usually don't do sequels. They usually just do one-offs.
so? I guess that just means like they don't have the number of playtesters that a big developer would have, and so I mean I guess that makes sense. There was one other thing I was going to say about it. Just kind of going to the gameplay a little bit. I know you said they're probably not going to change much except for putting more focus on the tactical combat. Was the first one? Did you have a lot to do with like focusing on player choices and stuff like that? Is that new to the game, or is that going to be like continuation?
That's a continuation, and that's one of the things that I actually really liked about the original game, and I'm glad that they're bringing it over. It's one of those games where the choices that you make really do matter. They really, really, really do matter. And so much so that there's multiple endings to the first game. I forget exactly how many, but I think I'm based on what you do in the game. I think there's 4 endings to the game based on what you do. There's definitely 2, and I don't want to spoil it because you have a very major choice to make at the end of the game. But I do believe there's 4 endings based on what you do in the game.
Okay, that's pretty cool because I know like I always say like oh those are so hard because to make those, but that's cool because it just makes the game more replayable. And if you want to see all those different endings and stuff like that, um, and I guess so it's a completely different world now too. Is that what, or like a different part of the map that they're gonna be?
No, so you're gonna go back to Tier for D. It's gonna be exactly like the first game, but it's gonna be the flip side. So you're seeing it now from the native perspective, which I think is really, really cool because if you're a fan of the first game, you kind of want to revisit that stuff. Like it's been so long since you've been to that world that it's like it's almost at the point now where it'll be like kind of nostalgic to go through and like see those same places, but see them from a different side.
Was the first one open world too, or is this more? Or are they open world, or are they kind of similar to the fact of like open concept again?
It's an open concept. It's still a linear experience, but I'm glad that you brought that up because the notes that I have about Greedfall 2 is that the game will be non-linear. So I'm not really sure what exactly that means.
Pick different. I don't know.
It's weird, right? Yeah, because if it was an open world, they would just say it's an open world.
Yeah, I would think that they would just say open world title action adventure game. That is strange. Maybe it's going to be kind of like Dark Souls in the sense that you can like do different things at different times, but not truly open world.
I wonder if they mean story, like non-linear, like you don't need to play the original game to have this one make sense. Like you're gonna see the story from the other side, but like the characters in the first game, that whole storyline, it's not like you're gonna need to know that storyline or need to know what happened in that storyline for this game to make sense.
And I think that's where I was going to go with. That's another question I was going to ask. I was like, do you think you have to play the first one? But just based off of what we're kind of talking about, I don't know if you'll have to. And the fact that they call it a sequel prequel, like I don't think you're going to have to play the first one.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have to play the first one. And just kind of last thing I want to touch on here. I think it's really cool that like if you look at the end of the trailer before that big boss fight comes up, you can see that your main character is walking with three other characters next to them. Okay, so in this game, they're saying that you are going to have three companions with you, which was not a thing in the first game. And I think that's a really interesting kind of way to do this because your companions, not only are your companions going to be like adaptive NPCs that like things can happen amongst your companions where they either do certain things or they can even like take off on you if you start making the wrong choices that they don't like and stuff like that. So I think it really kind of aids to the experience. But they're also saying that you can like control them in the fight. So it's almost giving me like vibes of like Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I mean? Where you can like kind of control them in the fight and have them do certain things, which I think it's really interesting. I think it's a very interesting dynamic to just add to the game because it wasn't in the first game at all.
That's really cool because I did actually like that in Guardians of the Galaxy. That was a fun mechanic that you could like have different characters do different things. So that's really neat. I think I don't know, like you didn't sell me on this game because it's like a Souls like. I just think it sold me just a base of what this game is, and it does seem really cool, and I'm excited for this one to come out. And I think fans of the original are gonna really love this one, like just as much or even more than the first one, just based off how much effort it seems like they're putting into this new game to really focus on the core mechanics of the gameplay, the lore. I think it's gonna become a more well-rounded or full circle game.
You know, like we said, that they really focus on storyline and lore. So if you're one of those gamers that really enjoys the storyline and you know having a great amount of lore in the game, it's definitely a game that you should check out. And the one complaint on it was really kind of the combat system, and it feels like they're hashing that out. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I did enjoy the first GreedFall, even though it was a little janky and a little easy. So to see that they are, you know, focusing more on the combat system, making it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more fluid, always good things for me.
And then to kind of finish off the thought of how many endings the first one had, it was 5.
5. Okay.
5.
Yeah.
Quick
5
Google
to
search.
5
So
to-
I don't know if that's true. It's just what I quick Googled, and that is off of thegamer.com. So
Sounds
5.
about right. No,
Yeah.
no, I thought there was 4. So maybe there's a hidden ending that I don't know about that I'll
Ooh,
have
Dave's
to
just
go
gonna
back
Yeah.
and get.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Or maybe
Yeah.
I'll play it just one time and try to get that 5th ending so you don't have to go back.
I would appreciate that very much. Yeah,
But
that would be great.
overall, the game it looks like it's going to be a good sequel, Dave. But do you think it's going to be one of the best sequels of all time?
You know what? I would love to say yes, but
Yeah.
I just there's so many better sequels
Yeah.
on the list. So, you know, there was only one thing that we could do if we're talking like this, and that of course is a draft of the best video game sequels of all time.
Ba-dum-bum-bum.
How's your
Let's hear it.
list? Are you
My
excited
list's
about your
pretty good,
list?
yeah.
Your
Yeah, I'm
list is
super
pretty good?
excited.
Well, take your number 1 pick.
Yes, and I was really hoping I'd get the number 1 because I have a feeling that yours is on the list for me.
If you take the number 1, I'm walking.
Okay, Dave's quitting the podcast tonight. My first pick of the draft is Batman Arkham City, the
Of
follow-up
course.
to Arkham Asylum. Such a good sequel.
Of
Such
course
a
it
great
is.
game.
Of course it is. Of course.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be on your list, so I had to make sure to get it early for me.
I'm so salty.
And the fact that you brought it up in your stream didn't help your cause.
I'm so salty. I'm so salty. That's a great number one pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since Adam took Arkham City, which of course the follow-up to Arkham Asylum, which was one of my favorite games of all time, I have to go elsewhere. And I don't think that you can go wrong heading over to the Rockstar well, and I am going to take Red Dead Redemption 2. It's such a great game.
That is
such a great
wonderful, wonderful choice as a quick follow-up to Arkham City. So, my second pick, Dave, and I think the rest of my list is safe, but my second pick is The Division 2.
That was not on my list, but I had a feeling it was going to be on yours.
The first one, I enjoyed the first one, but I didn't put as much time and effort into it as much as I did the second one. The second one was so fun to me. And I know that probably is not like a hot take, but it's probably not a big one for a lot of people. But I love The Division 2. The player base is still pretty strong and plays lots of updates for it still because I really love that one.
No, that's a great pick. Okay, next up on my list, I am going to go back to the retro well, and I am going to go with Super Metroid. I love Metroid. I think it's a great game, but Super Metroid is just iconic. That is a sequel that is just iconic. So I got to go Super Metroid. Shout out Zero Suit Samus.
Whoop whoop. Alrighty, my third pick is a follow-up to one of the Call of Duties when I actually enjoyed them. So, my third pick is the follow-up to Call of Duty 4, and that is Modern Warfare 2. Nothing but good things to say about that game. It took over my high school years. It's such a great game. I love that
People
one.
love Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah. It still holds up to today.
Yeah, that's a very safe and deserving pick. I don't know how I'm gonna follow that up honestly, because now I'm looking at my list and I'm like, I don't got anything as good as that. Okay, so number 3 on my list. I'm gonna grab a shooter. Right now. And number 3 on my list, we are going to go with a little Uncharted 2. Love me some Nathan Drake. Uncharted 2, surprisingly underrated. I think that game deserves more recognition than it gets.
Yeah. When I was doing my quick Google search, best sequels of video games, that was not on the list, to be honest.
No?
Actually, most of my games on here are not on the list either. So except for Arkham City, that was the only one that was on the list.
I don't think most of mine are either. But you know what? We don't. It's not about Google's list, guys. This is about
our personal opinions, our
list,
video games. But sometimes I do the search just to get an idea of things I may have forgot that I loved it. So, okay. My fourth pick is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Let's go.
What a great follow-up to the original Tony Hawk game.
That was a great follow-up.
And then sequels after that were always so good too, except for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. That one should have never been made. But anyway.
Just ignore that one. That one doesn't exist.
Yeah,
we live in a world that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though you rode a bus to go get it in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And it was winter too. It wasn't. I think it was warm. I think it just got warm out. So never again.
That's it. Never again. Rip Tony Hawk 5. Okay, next up on the list, my number 4 pick. I'm going to go back to the retro well again, and we are going to go with Mega Man 2. The original Mega Man is good. Mega Man 2 set the stage for the entire rest of the series, and I don't think that I could have a list of best sequels without including it.
Okay, I like that one. I like it. Okay, see, I have a lot of good ones on here that I really want to put on the list. Do I want to go with the most recent one, or do I want to go with one from kind of days past?
Go with your favorite, bro.
Oh,
this is your world, Adam. We're just living in it.
Honorable mentions here. So my 5th pick is Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. That was such a good follow-up to the first one. I really enjoyed it. The fact that they expanded New York into the different boroughs even more so, and having both Miles and Peter, and the story was really cool and fun, and you get to play as Venom. Such a good game.
I was actually kind of waiting for this to hit your list.
Yeah.
I was surprised it was taking so long.
Well, because I didn't... You haven't played it, so I was like, oh, it's safe in that regard, because you hasn't played it.
Okay,
and then I was like, I got other games that I really loved, so that was my mindset.
Okay, now it all makes sense. Now it all
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, and to round off the draft, guys, we are going to go with a little bit of a shout out to Blake here, and we are going to go Assassin's Creed 2.
Mm,
Loved Assassin's Creed 2. That was the beginning of the Ezio storyline. That was, in my opinion, when Assassin's Creed just like really started taking over. The first
that's
game
cool.
was good. The second game was better.
I think that's the one that I actually played mostly through too, if I remember right. But I don't remember because it's been so long. But I
It's
remember
been
those. The early ones were probably like the first few were really good, and then it kind of went through a lull, and now they're getting better again. I think
Yeah. No,
so.
that's back when, and I'm sorry, Assassin's Creed fans, you're gonna hate this, but that's back when Assassin's Creed actually progressed the storyline along,
Yeah,
instead of just having an entire game that happens in the Animus and then nothing in the real world ever happens.
yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
gotcha. Oh, Blake, we love you, Blake. Gonna make Blake sad. No, I'm just kidding.
I
Blake
love you,
loves
buddy.
the game, so
No,
um,
they're great games. They're great
yeah.
games. And number two, I feel like definitely deserves to be on the list because Ezio
Mhm.
is one of the most iconic, parts of Assassin's Creed. That whole storyline is just fantastic.
I think he's just an iconic video game character, to be
I did,
honest. Like a lot of people recognize, like if you see that, you're like, oh, that's Assassin's Creed. Like you know what game that's from, you know who he is. So
yeah.
it's a good choice, I think.
You see
So
that white outfit with the red
yeah,
hood, and you're just like,
and
yep, that's
the
Ezio,
hidden
bro.
blades, yeah,
Yep, that's
exactly.
Ezio.
Okay, let's hear some of your hidden or your honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions here. We got a couple. Two of them are fighters actually, and
Oh, okay.
we're probably gonna catch some slack because we didn't mention any of them. But number one honorable mention: Street Fighter Two. Street Fighter Two probably deserved to be on the list. I
Hmm.
also went with Mortal Kombat 2. Mortal Kombat 2 was a fantastic follow up to the first one. Skate 2, amazing game, and
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2, suspectly underrated.
Gotcha. There's probably a few that I don't have on my honorable mention list, but like Resident Evil, those sequels would probably upset some people that they're not on here. GTA. I didn't put GTA only because like they weren't really sequels to each other. I mean they are, but they're kind of like their own games each time.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly GTA didn't really come into its own until Vice City.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
original GTAs were kind of like way different
Hmm.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vice City was like that first like, okay, this is what
This would be
GTA
fun.
is
Yeah.
going to be forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Another honorable mention I have here is Saints Row 2. Those were some fun, goofy alternatives to GTA. Like I loved after Saints Row 2 though, it kind of fell off for me. That's when like Saints Row 3, 4, and then the reboot, they were just too much goofy and not enough like the first two were kind of goofy, but it just kind of fell off after that. Dying Light 2, wonderful follow-up to the first one. Borderlands 2 was fun. Like I love the Borderlands series. And then Left 4 Dead was another wonderful, wonderful sequel.
There's actually quite a few. Like when I
Mhm.
was like thinking of games, like, dang, there's like a lot of sequels that are really, really good. So
Yeah.
yeah, this one was tough. This one might we might need to do another one of these, part two of this draft,
Hmm.
because I got a feeling we're gonna get some comments. So guys,
Yeah.
let us know down in the comments down below if your favorite sequel was not mentioned because we would love to hear it.
Yep, I would agree. All right, moving on to our next game, Outcast: New Beginning by Appeal Studios, which is coming out very quickly, March 15th. And so this game took the place of a different game that we were going to talk about tonight, and I'm kind of regretting that decision to ask Dave to switch the game, to be honest.
Buckle up, boys. It's gonna get rough.
It is going to get rough, especially cuz I don't normally talk about games, too many games in a negative fashion. Um but this one, so I played the demo. It's on Steam right now. Um and first things first, I thought the reason why I wanted to switch games is so we were going from a first person shooter. I'm like, it doesn't look all that different than what normally is out there. And I saw the trailer to this game and I was like, oh, it's bright. It looks fun. It's got like action, like all this good stuff. And then I downloaded the demo and I was like, okay, this is kind of head scratching. What am I playing? I don't like this. Um, and so let's kind of pull up the trailer. It's an open world action adventure game. Um, and really, That's about all I have to say about it. It's kinda generic, to be honest, and that's kinda what I felt like when I was playing the game.
Yeah, so guys, if you're just listening, like we talked about, and you know what, like Adam said, it's very bright and vibrant, and the world looks really, really cool in this traversal system of like, I don't know if you have like a jetpack or
Yeah.
something like that, but I mean that looks really, really cool. And you're getting a look at the main character right now, who is an ex-Navy SEAL.
Cutter
Um,
Slade is his name.
yeah, Cutter Slade, and he is awoken by was it aliens?
They're not aliens, they're like, Corbs cards, something like that. It's a weird
Something.
name for like a all-knowing being, I guess.
Yeah, and you've been awoken, and you're on this planet that's been like stripped of its resources, and the island has been like taken over, and the inhabitants of the island have been like enslaved by these robots. Um, which I mean is kind of a
Yeah, it's a
eh.
cool concept, and this is a follow-up, so another sequel to an original game called The Outcast, and which was a really beloved game back then. Like a lot of people loved it. It came out in 1999 is when this game came out originally. And this
That's kind of like the one thing that I was like confused about. I'm like, yeah, this game came out for PC in 25 years ago. Like, why, why now?
exactly, and the game has a cult following. A lot of people did enjoy it, but I think the issue with this game was, or so going into the demo a little bit, and the story's not groundbreaking. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're playing as Cutter Slade who's been resurrected to save the world again. Like, that's not anything crazy new. Like, a lot of games have done that. Where it kind of falls short for me, like I like we both said, that the world is actually looks really good. Like in the game, the world is pretty bright. It's fun to traverse through. The game itself does not play well. I had a lot of performance issues. I know it's just a demo, and I will say they don't really have time to fix it because it's right around the corner in a couple weeks. But so the performance issues was kind of off putting. The jet and the traversal you're talking about. So you have a jetpack, and you can glide along the ground with your jetpack. You can't really go higher than the ground, but if you're higher than the ground, you glide instead. Like you have a glider, which that didn't make sense to me. Why can I have my jetpack at full speed on the ground, but as soon as I get to the air, I have to glide? And the gliding mechanic was like, I couldn't figure it out. It just seemed really janky. It's got air dashes where you can dodge and air dash.
The jetpack
And
only works under 10 feet, bro.
I guess that's kind of what it felt like. But you can glide over water and not cause any splashes. So I don't know. Or you can use your jetpack on water. So, but other than that, like the enemies felt really easy playing against them. The gunplay mechanics really weren't all that exciting. It's kind of boring, to be honest. And it felt like the buttons, and maybe it's because I just wasn't getting used to it. It felt so. It was hard to get used to, but also felt like they didn't flow well. Like the button mechanics,
Like
didn't,
stiff.
yeah, they were stiff. It was hard to kind of piece together things. Like, and then I would always try reloading, but the reloading button, it was like a cooldown. Like instead of reloading, it was just a cooldown, which has been done in games. But for me, like I'm trying to reload and I hit square, and it's a melee attack. I'm like, okay. And then the melee attack was really slow. It just felt really janky. And like I said, I hate being the guy that crap on games, but I don't think this is a game that's going to be one that I play fully because of how bad my experience was with the demo. And like I've had a lot of good experience with a lot of demos I've played, but this one was not a good experience for me, to be honest.
I mean, I don't want to be the guy that craps on games either, but like, usually I look at these demos or these like, I look at the trailers and stuff like that, and I find I can like cherry pick, even if I'm not like interested in the game as a gamer, right? I can cherry pick aspects of like, ooh, that looks interesting. That looks unique. This looks blah, blah, blah. I think you hit the nail on the head. Generic. I just was like trying to grasp at anything. I'm like, okay, like the world looks bright, but like also like I've seen that. I've seen it like the world. I've seen it before. I'm like, all right, let's see like what the storyline is. Oh, it's been we've been taken over by robots. Like, okay, like I've seen that. Like, what type of combat style is this? Like, okay, it's a dodging shooter type of like, like, all right, I've seen, like everything that it's just like I've seen everything that's in this game before. It's not giving me anything. You know what I mean? So
And I think the problem is they don't do it well. That's why it's such a big deal. It's like the game's not done well. And I think that's where it's kind of off-putting to me is like the game wants to be this like big shooting game, but the mechanics are just they fall short. They don't seem all that fun. They don't play very fun. And the fact that this is a $60 game is insane to me. Yeah. This is what you're getting for $60. And I know like the new price for like big games is $70, but this is not a $60 game. Like maybe 40, maybe 30, but I will not spend $60 on this game. And that's not to say like there's the fan base of the first one, but to me, like I don't know how you can bring in new people with this. I don't want to call it crap because I know like there's a lot of things that go into development, but this subpar game, like nothing new, nothing great about it. And that's why I don't think it's one I'm going to play. So just like we said, we don't like to crap on games very much, but this is one that you might want to avoid for a while, at least until maybe some updates come or they really fix a lot of the performance issues. But I don't know if it's a game to play.
And I think one of the major things that they've really kind of put all in all of their marketing materials and all of their kind of like previews and stuff like that is the fact that all of these weapons are very, very, very customizable, which in essence sounds really cool. But to me, that says we are going to put out a game that is going to just be flooded with microtransactions, and we are going to try to get you $3 at a time with a new skin for your favorite weapon, with a dangly little skull charm for your stock and all that stuff. So
I don't think that's the case. I don't think they're gonna do that. I think it's a lot of things like in terms of like different buffs and nerfs and things that you can put onto the gun, like different effects that they'll have. Kind of like Suicide Squad, where like you change this in the gun, it shoots this way, it causes fire. I think that's what it's gonna be. I mean, Suicide Squad has microtransactions for the cosmetics, but not so much the actual effects of the game, like of the guns.
I could be wrong, but it just feels like a game that's going to try to cash in on it.
Maybe, but I didn't get that sense when I was playing the game. And the game also, so kind of going into a little bit more of the mechanics, just aside from that, the weapons, like Dave said, they'll be able to be created any way you want to kind of have the way you want to play with different effects of how you use the weapons. There's different level upgrades and powers that you'll get to upgrade and progress as you play. Powers can be unlocked by liberating different temples and things like that. So maybe the more you play, it will feel better with the different upgrades. But I don't know, the base core mechanics I was not very happy with, and it's not one I think I'm going to play.
Like we said, we never really want to crap on games, but we want to give honest feedback, and we don't want to be those guys, but sorry guys, the game looks super generic. It doesn't look very fun. And like Adam said, it's coming out when March 15th.
March 15th. So they don't really have time to fix much.
I will bet anything that if you just wait for May, like wait till May 1st, you'll get this game for 60% off, guaranteed.
The spring sale for Steam, it'll be really cheap too. So
let it pass you by for a month or two here and get it at a very, very, very steep discount.
That's all we had to say about this game. I'm pretty disappointed that it didn't turn into what I was hoping and looking forward to in a game. But it has some aliens. Aliens are pretty neat.
Aliens are dope.
Yeah, we're gonna do a draft of the best aliens ever.
And I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, I was searching up some. I was like, whoa, I forgot about this alien. I forgot about this alien. And there's some great aliens.
There's so many cool aliens. Yeah. I'm gonna get my first pick here, so I'm sorry
cool.
about that. But I don't think this one is gonna be your number one pick because I'm a little bit of a boomer. So I'm gonna go.
It might be my first pick.
Is it?
It might be.
Okay. Okay. So guys, I am going to go way back to my childhood, and in my childhood, was ruled by like one character that I just absolutely loved. And of course, I am going to take with my very first pick on the best aliens draft, the one and only Elf.
Oh, okay.
I love Elf.
Not my first pick,
He
actually.
always tried to eat the cat, dude. It was so funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that is not my first pick, Dave, but I'm also going to go to my childhood, and my
Okay.
first pick is E.T.
I,
E.T. phone home.
I feel like if we didn't pick ET in the first round,
Yeah.
one of us had to do it. So I'm glad
Yeah.
that you did it.
Yeah,
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 that's a great pick. That's a great pick. Okay, number 2 on my draft. I am also going to go back to my childhood, and I absolutely loved watching this movie with my dad. So this one holds a very special place in my heart. But my second pick on the Alien draft, we are going to go with the Predator. Love the Predator.
The Predator.
Such
Yeah,
a
I knew
good
that was gonna be on the list. I thought that was gonna be on your
So
list for
good.
sure.
So good.
Okay, my second pick is Invader Zim.
That's a great pick.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't even on my
I
list.
love that cartoon. That was so good.
That wasn't even on my list.
Yeah, should have been.
That's a great pick. That's a great pick. Okay, guys, moving on. Number 3 on my list. I think these are just all from my childhood, so I apologize for that. But number 3 on my list is going to be Marvin the Martian.
No, that was on my list next. That stinks.
That was next.
Yeah, that was next on my list.
I'm sorry.
I think honestly, like there hasn't like going like a lot of these are from my childhood as well. Like there's not been any like really great aliens since like our childhood. Like, can you name any off like the top of your head? Like, well, let's do it at the end, just in case any of them are on your list.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, dude. Like looking at my list,
Not really,
no
right?
new
Like,
ones. No new ones.
zombies are overdone, but aliens need to come back.
Yeah, that's a good.
Dave, we're gonna make an alien game.
I was just gonna say we should
Let's
make an
do it.
alien game.
Okay, so I'm on my third pick now.
Third pick.
Okay, my third pick is Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
That's a great pick. That was on my
he's
list
so fun.
too. Dang, that was on my list. Dang it. Okay. All right, that's fine. Okay. Number 4 on my list, I am going to go a little Ridley Scott. I don't think that we could do this draft without having this character. And of course, I'm going to take a xenomorph from the best aliens of all time.
Yeah, it's considering the movie is called Alien. So.
Right? I feel like we have to. It's like E.T. It's a must. We have to do it.
Yep. Okay. My fourth pick is Coneheads.
I forgot about the Coneheads, dude.
They're so goofy and like they pretend to be real people. That was such a good one.
What was Dan Aykroyd's name?
Oh, I can't remember. It's been so long
God.
since I've seen it. I just like, Coneheads. Like that was an alien I thought of.
Remember their teeth were like,
yeah,
they're like sharpened pencils.
Yeah. It's so weird.
That's such a great. Chris Farley was in that movie. He played the boyfriend.
Yep.
so good. That's a great pick. I forgot about that movie. Dang. Okay. All right. And to round it off, oh, this is gonna be tough, man. I have so many good ones on here. Oh man. Okay. All right. We're gonna round it off. Number 5 pick. We're gonna go with a little Spock. Live long and prosper.
That's a good one. That was gonna be on my list too. But I've seen a lot of Star Trek, but never like sold me, if that makes sense. I was more of the Star Wars kid. I felt like Star Trek was like for, I don't want to say older people, but people that are slightly older than me when I was a kid.
Star Trek was definitely for a more adult.
Generation.
Yeah, it was definitely a more adult featured show, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm surprised this didn't make your list. I have a couple on here that might get some slack if we didn't put on the list, but my final pick of the draft is the symbiote / Venom. Dave, I thought that was going to be on your list, to be honest.
I'm so sad. I didn't even think of that. How did that make it to number 5?
I don't know. But some honorable mentions I have here is Piccolo or the Namekians from Dragon Ball Z, just because I've been watching it so much. Optimus Prime. I thought that was going to be kind of cheating, so I didn't put it on my list.
But we're accepting that.
Yeah. I didn't say Superman. I was like, okay, he's an alien, but it's also cheating. So
Superman was totally on my list.
Yeah, I just figured that one was cheating. And then the aliens in Toy Story.
The Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
one too. I got me a little Zoidberg from Futurama.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, we got Chewbacca and Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I could say the Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z as well. I'm obsessed, man.
You're obsessed with Dragon Ball. This Dragon Ball Z is just running your world right now.
It is.
Yeah.
But that was a good draft. Let us know in the comments below who we left out, because there are so many good aliens. So many good aliens that we'd love to hear what didn't make the list. Obviously, these are our personal opinions, and there's always some others that we'd love to hear. So let us know in the comments. Moving on to our next game, KIBORG. It is a Sobaka Studio game, and I was pretty disappointed in the first game that we talked about that I played the demo of. This one, not as much.
You're excited about this one?
There's elements that are pretty cool to me. Is it the best roguelike game I've ever played? Nope. But is it much better than Outcast New Beginning? Yep.
I have one word for this.
Yeah.
Confusion.
Confusion?
I am confused.
Okay, let's go ahead and pull up the trailer real quick. Essentially what it is a third-person action roguelite game. If it plays. I hit the play button. But here's the trailer. And you're playing as a Vasily, which is a leader of a resistance of a prison planet. And so basically, it's just a brawling beat 'em up game in terms of it's a roguelite, it's third person, you get different melee weapons. So if you're just listening on Spotify, you see hordes of different enemies popping up. It's brutal. Like, as you can see here, ripping the heart out of one of the enemies. And that's the roguelite element. So like you upgrade by defeating the final boss of each level.
Yep.
And you get the power-ups for that. It plays pretty fast, to be honest. I was pretty excited with how fast it was playing. And so this would be one of the final enemies that you fight against in each level, I guess. And yeah. And essentially you're a human that can get cyborg abilities as you progress through the game, if that makes sense.
This is what was confusing to me. So guys, if you're just listening on the Spotify, it started out as like a what would be like a good way, almost like a Double Dragon, like that style brawler. But then all of a sudden, like at the end, he turned into this like cyborg, and it turned into like a shooter. And, like, that's what was confusing to me. I'm like kind of confused at like, what is this gameplay? Like, did you play the demo?
Yeah, I played the demo. So this is a game I did play the demo, so I can hopefully shed some light on what the game is. So the cyborg element is your power-ups, essentially, if that makes sense. So like that's just, it's a cosmetic look to it, if that makes sense. So but let me kind of go into it. It's a narrative-driven third-person roguelite. The missions are procedurally generated, which a lot of these roguelites are. And now, so the gameplay-wise, it took me a second to get used to. It felt like it was kind of, I wanted to say janky, but after I did a couple runs, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fluid. I kind of understood what was going on. But the way the upgrades work is there's different components. There's 8 different components that you can achieve, and you can equip 7 of them. So you'll have an arm component. So when you equip the arm, your arm has the cyborg on it. You equip the head, it's got a head now. So like it's upgrades that just add a cosmetic touch to it too. And then there's the other arm, the torso, the legs, and so that's where that comes from, and that's why he switches into it. And why he has these powers, and this is kind of where it does get a little confusing. So you're playing as Vasily. I'm probably saying that name completely wrong. And the whole thing is he's actually sending clones into the future. Yeah, this is where it gets confusing, and it's one of those things like it doesn't really make sense to me either. So he's sending clones into the future, and it's called the Cradle. That's the tech that he has, and essentially, so like this is why he doesn't get hurt. So these clones have the ability to absorb the enemy's cyborg elements, and that's where that comes from.
I know, I literally just listened to you explain it, and I still don't understand it. Okay, so he's sending clones of himself into the future.
Yep.
And when he defeats a cyborg, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. So when he defeats the cyborg, he's absorbing the powers, and that's where you can upgrade.
Okay, but what do the future yous have to do with it?
You're trying to save the world, I guess, or lead the resistance against the other enemy factions, which is like some mutants, some criminals, some mech soldiers, and things like that.
Guys, do you understand? Like, am I just dumb?
I'm probably describing it wrong, but essentially, so okay, let's kind of go back it up a little bit in terms of the story. So the story is you are stuck in this endless quarantine, essentially, due to a substance that's been found, and it's like nanobots, and like so that's kind of how they're stuck in this loop, and so he's sending himself future clones to kind of break that loop. Is kind of what I'm gathering from the story.
To try to break the time loop?
Yes, trying to break the time loop, I guess. I don't know. I barely played the demo. I probably put like 30 minutes in. And there's a mechanic that I don't really understand. But I think what's going on here is he's sending people into the future, and he's trying to break this time loop to stop it. And so like he's sending clones in the future so he doesn't get killed, essentially.
So he's like sending clones out to like take the bullet for him?
Exactly.
I mean, confusion, just confusion.
Yeah, and it's one of those games. It's harder to explain unless you play it, if that makes sense. You got to play it to kind of understand it. But overall, I enjoyed what I played, if that makes sense.
What style is this? Because it's
It's a brawler beat 'em up. Do you remember we talked about Hellboy Web of Word?
Yeah.
It's a faster Hellboy Web of Word. Like you have like a gun element. The gun really didn't play that much role when I did play. The melee weapons were upgrades. So like as you progress through, you know how roguelites are. You progress through the stage, you get to pick out of 3 different options. And so that's where that came from. And then so that's the way it plays. It plays like a faster Hellboy Web of Word, except for like you can move much faster, and that's kind of what my qualm with Web of Word was. It's like I felt like I was moving so slow.
But like a 2.5D kind of.
No, it's 3D. No, you can do the whole.
You can rotate
map.
the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And so the melee is pretty fun, and I thought like you can combine some pretty cool combos. So like one of the combos, or the way to start a combo, is like you can dash to an enemy at the same time of like hitting like the light attack, and so you dash and hit, and then follow it up with a heavy, and so I thought that was cool. It moves fast, and I like that. It's got heavy attack, light, block, parry, a dodge, melee weapons, guns, things like that.
It feels like it has tournament fighter controls in a 3D brawler.
It doesn't have like left, right, up, down, you know what I mean, like stuff like that. It's just you can combine buttons to do different things. One thing I thought was really cool, so like with your power-ups and level ups, your stamina meter starts with 5, but as you progress, it gets like, I think it's like 10 different. And so when you dodge, you use a little bit of your stamina. And if you block, you use a little bit of your stamina. And if you do a block of a heavy attack, you use a lot of your stamina. And I thought that was really cool. And then the more you're in there fighting, the stamina goes up.
You know me, dude. I'm a Souls player. The woes of the stamina bar.
But the thing with that is like, I didn't feel like I was struggling for stamina, if that makes sense. But
that's good, because the stamina bar, I understand the stamina bar, but like at some point you're like kind of annoyed.
Yeah, you're like, I need the stamina. I've only hit this person twice. I'm completely out. So you don't lose stamina when you attack either. It's only when you like dodge and block.
Oh, dang, really?
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of neat. The game offers like hundreds of combat modifiers. I didn't see all those just because I only played the demo and only got through a few full levels. The bosses at the end. So that was another thing. When I played the game, I was like, oh, this isn't bad. I got to the final stage of that like progression. Oh, I couldn't beat it. It was so intense. Yeah, it was like hordes and hordes of enemies. I beat a few, and all of a sudden, wham, bam, bam, bam. Because there's like enemies that shoot stuff at you. There's enemies that are heavy with like bigger weapons. There's gun enemies. It's like, I don't know where to begin. But I thought it was fun.
So like, how does the gun work? Because like a lot of the gameplay that we saw in the trailer was a brawling style, but it's like he pulled out the gun just for the boss. Like, is that how that works?
You can use the gun in any part of the game. And the way the gun works, it's essentially just like a long range attack of a brawler. Like it's not really like you can aim, but I found like trying to aim it was so hard. Like, you can left trigger aim, and I was like, I don't like that. If you just pull the right trigger without aiming, it hits the target.
So is the gun like OP though? Like, does it make
No,
more sense to like not make it a brawler? Just because I feel like it.
the gun was it's pretty. I wouldn't say it's weak. It's strong against certain enemies, weak against others. So there's enemies that if you shoot them, they have a force field, and you can't shoot them. You have to brawl them, like hit them with melee. So that's why it's pretty cool. It's like there's different types of enemies that you have to fight different ways, if that makes sense.
I love that. You know, I'm a fan of that.
This game, it's definitely different. I will say that there's a lot of mechanics that are unique to it. And one thing I didn't quite understand, probably because like I didn't get through the demo, like the full demo. They really sell this aspect of time, like and so each day or each run that you do is a day, and it says if you go through so many days, it's something called I'm gonna say this word wrong. It's calamity, like it's something bad's gonna happen if you go through so many days. And I don't quite understand where that plays into yet. I'm sure maybe they're trying to leave that until the actual release.
Like a Majora's Mask situation.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, what does it say? Sorry, I'm pulling up real quick. I don't know where it's at, but it basically. Oh, here it goes. In KIBORG, the clock is always ticking. Each mission you undertake costs you a day, regardless of its results. And every week or so, new calamity strikes. You must choose your actions carefully, balancing its risks and rewards. With your every decision, with each victory and each loss, the story is moving forward. There is no game over to see and no previous save to load. You must learn to live with your consequences of your actions.
Okay, that sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah. So I don't know what that is yet. I only got through the first two because and then with the story progression is there's different tiers of the roguelite. Like, you know what I mean? So I only got through 1 star and then 2 star. That's all I got through. And there was a 3rd star, but
I wonder if the story becomes like more dynamic, whereas like if you have X amount of days pass, like it starts like changing what should be happening. You know what I mean? That sounds kind of cool.
yeah, so it's really intriguing and really cool in that aspect. And I don't think this is a game that's gonna be $60 like some other poopy game that we've talked about. But
No, it doesn't. It doesn't feel like a $60 game. This very much to me feels like a $30-$40 game. Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. It's like the fighting style. You know, I love a good brawler, and like visually, it looks cool. The idea looks cool. I just, I had some questions, but I think you answered them.
woohoo! Another thing about it is, or there's no release date for it yet. The demo's available, so if you want to check that out, do so. It's much easier to understand the game as you play it rather than me trying to explain it. But I enjoyed it. It took me a few runs because I wasn't very good at it. But other than that, it should be a fun game to check out.
Should be a fun game. I had some questions. I think the questions were answered. I'm actually leaving here more intrigued than after just my initial first impressions. So yeah, very, very cool. Demo is out now. We'll leave it linked down below. Check it out if it sounds interesting to you, and no release date yet, right?
No release date yet. So
No.
I feel like he's a pretty cool looking brawler, right? You know?
He's a very cool looking brawler, but is he one of the coolest brawlers of all time?
I don't think so yet. He might turn into one, but I think we need to do a draft of the best hand-to-hand combat fighters or a draft of the best brawlers. There we go.
You knew this was happening. You already knew this was happening.
Yep.
I get my first pick.
Let's go.
Okay.
I think my picks are safe.
All of them?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right. With my very first pick, I am going to go the only place that you can go, the most iconic hand-to-hand combat fighter of my childhood. We have our course going to the Mortal Kombat well, and I am taking Scorpion. Get over here.
Get over here. Yeah, he wasn't my number 1.
No?
Not my number 1. I will say he was on my list pretty later on, but my first pick is coming from the same game. My first pick is Liu Kang.
Let's go.
Yeah. Such a great fighter.
How scared did you get when I said Mortal Kombat that I was gonna take your first pick?
I was pretty nervous, to be
Were you
honest.
pretty
I thought
nervous
you were
there?
gonna take Liu Kang. Yeah.
Man, 1 and 2 coming from Mortal Kombat.
His bicycle kick is so overpowered. Or back in the day, it's so overpowered.
Yeah, the bicycle kick is so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was super easy. You just hold low kick for like 4 seconds and let it go.
Yeah. Yep. Or and I think in the newer ones is like right, left, X or something like that.
That's a great choice. That's a great choice. Okay. This one might be controversial because I know that not typically the choice that would come from this game, but I'm gonna do it because he's my favorite character from the game. And we are, of course, with my second pick, gonna go with a little Eddie Gordo.
Okay.
I love Eddie Gordo.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
The capoeira. You're like, he's so sick, dude. He's so sick. That's a good, yeah. That's 100% Eddie. I am picking Eddie every single time I play Tekken. Every single time.
Okay, Dave, I think you're gonna be pretty disappointed with my next pick that it's not on your list or very high up.
What you got?
My second pick is Batman. Dave's done.
I quit.
Dave is done. Master hand-to-hand combat, martial artist, everything you need to know or have in a fighter, Batman has it, and you didn't take him.
I'm slipping today, bro.
You are slipping.
Today's been a struggle. I'm not gonna lie. God dang it. Okay. All right. Well, that sucks. You win. Yeah, you win. Okay. Well, let's try to rebound from that. Okay. With my third pick, I'm going to go to the Soul Calibur world, and I'm gonna take Link. I'm gonna take Link from Soul Calibur. I gotta do it. I had to get Link on my list somehow.
Okay. My third pick. Are we in third pick again?
Third pick, indeed.
I have a memory of a goldfish some days. But my third pick is going from the. My third pick going to the Dragon Ball Z. You know, Goku.
I was waiting for it.
Yep. I don't know why, but I'm obsessed with this show right now. So.
Dragon Ball Z is running your world, man. It's running your world right now. That's a good pick. That's a good pick. Okay, with my fourth pick, I'm gonna go back to the retro well, and we're gonna go with a little Ryu from Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, he was pretty low on my list, but that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I love me some Ninja Gaiden.
Okay, my fourth pick is Daredevil. He's just the heightened abilities and the way he fights is so cool.
That's such a good pick too. That's a good pick too. Okay, and to round off the draft, I don't know if people are gonna like this one, but when you really, really think about hand-to-hand combat fighters, I don't think that there was any more like strong, OP, pain in the ass combat fighter than Mr. Mike Tyson from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Ooh.
If you beat Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, you are a god amongst men because that was just like the most. He was no joke. He'd be like, do, pop, you're dead.
That's crazy. So that was like the original Souls-like of video games because you get one shotted, but he gets probably like 10 shots.
No joke. You got to hit Mike Tyson like 30 times.
Yeah,
and he's just like he's not even looking at you. He's just like,
bow.
You're
That's
just
awesome.
Out.
That's awesome. Okay, my next pick, I'm going to a more recent movie. TV show. So my fifth pick is Jack Reacher from the new like Amazon Reacher series. Have you seen that?
You know, here's my thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't look at him and not see Jim from The Office.
Oh yeah.
I just can't.
No, you're thinking of a different show. You're thinking of Jack Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
You're thinking of Jack Ryan. Reacher's this big old buff dude. Just
never seen that.
Jacked out of his mind. Yeah, you should check it out. It's really good. So if you haven't watched Reacher, there's actually like 26 books on him too. Like on this character. Yeah.
26?
Something like that. Bailey was going to start reading them and she's like, yeah, there's 26 books. I'm not going to read these. And I was like, okay, yeah, probably not. That's going to get expensive. But
yeah.
So Jack Reacher from the Reacher series. He's just a buff dude that can. It's pretty cool. You should check out the show.
I will make sure to check it out. Honorable mentions here. We got a little Sub-Zero. I got some
Yep.
Chun-Li,
Mhm.
Terry Bogard from Fatal Fury, and King from Tekken. And to round it off, a little Spinal from Killer Instinct.
Okay, cool. Some of my honorable mentions here: Chuck Norris. I thought he some of the characters he's played could have been one. Taskmaster.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Mr. Miyagi. Not because he showed off his fighting, but just the fact that he was a martial arts expert. I thought that would have been a good one.
That's a great one too. Yeah, that's a great one too.
Splinter, I thought could have been on the list.
That any of the turtles.
Yeah, Jason Bourne.
I'm gonna throw it out here a little bit, and I'm just gonna say that I think maybe I misunderstood
The assignment.
what the assignment, because I kept it strictly to video games, and had I
I mean, some of mine were. Yeah, I mean, Goku's been in a video game. Liu Kang is a video game. Daredevil's been in video games. Batman's been okay, except for Reacher.
I just didn't understand the assignment. It's been a day,
Apparently
guys.
not.
It's
It's
been a
okay.
day. I'm sorry.
It has been a day. It's okay.
I appreciate you guys sticking with me today.
But that's our draft of the best brawler / hand-to-hand combat fighters. Let us know who is on your list and who did not make it and who shouldn't have made the list.
I feel
Moving
like
on.
I feel like we're gonna catch some slack. I feel like I'm gonna catch some slack for Link, but I'm putting him on my list.
Okay, well, before we move on, I will say a lot of our comments about these kinds of drafts sometimes, specifically our mech draft one, is like there's a lot of anime characters. And guys, I'm so sorry. The only anime that I've really watched so far is Dragon Ball. And so just take that into consideration when we do these drafts. We don't watch too much anime. We're working on it. Thanks to Andy from the Tuning Japanese podcast. We're starting to dive into it a little bit more, but just know we understand there's so many good anime fighters and we miss some of them. Like the One Punch Man, that was one that popped up a lot as I was doing my searches. So
if it's not in Dragon Ball, we don't know it.
Yeah, we don't know it yet. We're working on it. We're working on it. But
okay,
that's all I want to say with that. But moving on to our last game, Dave, what is it?
Enotria, the last song. I'm really excited for this.
You're really excited about this. Okay.
You thought I was going to crap on this, huh?
I thought you were going to crap on it in a certain different aspects. So let me just pull up the trailer. We're kind of just talking about it real quick, but go ahead and describe it to the audience, Dave.
Okay, so if you are just listening, what we are taking a look at right now is you are looking at a character that is kind of strung up on a tree. And if you're a Souls player, you knew that this was a Souls like about 4 seconds into this trailer. This is just like quintessential Souls lore happening right now. And you're also kind of seeing this the thing that's lacking is, guys, we're not seeing like a lot of like gameplay, but I think what we're seeing right now is just an extension of how great the lore of this game is going to be, and I'm super excited for it. And that was one of the biggest things right there. Is if you're just listening, we saw a scene where the character is wearing a mask and then instantly changes his mask, and we're going to talk about in a couple minutes why that's important. But I think the idea behind the game is really creative. And then, of course, they had to throw in the quintessential super large beast that you need to fight and to end out the trailer. And I'm super excited for it. I am super excited for it. And I feel like maybe Adam is not super excited for this game. Is that correct?
I'm not super excited about this game. But this one comes out June 21st. It's made by Giamma Games. Is that how you say it?
Yes, correct.
So I want to say one thing about that final boss. You know what that final boss looks like?
What?
One of the bosses from Prince of Persia: Lost Crown.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like one of the early bosses of Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. So
we're gonna talk about this. Why don't we go ahead and do this right now? Why don't you go ahead and pull up the copycat image?
copycat image.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I will say that right now, Adam kind of alluded to the fact that that last boss kind of looks like a boss in Prince of Persia. We're also going to look at this image right here, and what you're seeing right now is the cover image for Enotria alongside for one of the cover images for Bloodborne, and you can see. Um, they, they look pretty similar, don't they?
I would agree with you,
Yeah,
Dave.
they look pretty similar. And I think that's going to be one of the things that this game is going to catch a lot of slack on is that um, they are they are kind of borrowing a lot of things from other games, and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Um, I don't think it's a good thing either, but I mean, you could go both ways on it, right? Like if they're borrowing something that fans like, is it really gonna deter people from the game? I don't know. I think there's gonna be a select few people that kinda say, like, "This game copied a lot of crap," and I'm not gonna support that, but I think for the vast majority of players, I don't think it's gonna matter. Do you think it's gonna matter?
I think what it does is it checks a lot of boxes of a typical Souls-like game. And to me, like, and like the way you describe your shooters, like a lot of them look the same to you. A lot of FPS shooters, every Call of Duty looks the same to you, right? That's what you've kind of said in the past.
Yeah.
To me, like Souls likes, I know there's a lot of different elements to them. They all have their different quirks and why they look different. Like Liza P looks very different to different games to me, but they all kind of have that feel and look to them. And that's kind of what this game feels like to me. It checks the boxes of a typical Souls element game. But to me, where I thought this game actually looks pretty good is the art style and the brightness of the game. Like I don't see that with too many Souls-like games, and I think that looks pretty cool. But other than that, like the mechanics seem the same, minus a few things that you'll probably talk about. But other than that, it seems like a Souls-like to me. You know, it looks like a Souls-like, talks like a Souls-like.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because I do think that it's like the aesthetic of it is very very cool and something that I've never kind of seen before, which is why I might be a little bit more excited about this game than most. Because as you talked about, the Souls franchise, Souls likes aesthetic has kind of been set in stone for a really long time. It's usually very dark. It's usually very dreary. It's very post-apocalyptic rundown, things are in shambles kind of world, and we're not getting that in this game. We're getting a very bright, vibrant kind of setting, which is kind of cool. I've never seen it done before in a Souls like. So I'm super excited for that, and I think that this game is going to be really 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 rich with lore, and it's supposed to be inspired by Italian folklore, which I don't know too much about. So I mean, it's kind of cool. You can talk about like, oh, they've done like, X, Y, and Z before. I've never seen a game inspired by Italian folklore, and I don't really know much of it. So I think it's kind of cool that like, I'll be learning about these, different types, this whole different genre of folklore or like, area of folklore that I've never been able to experience before. Fresh new stories, like fresh faces and, stuff like that. It's cool to me.
Now, so kind of going into that folklore, what does the story kind of look like?
There's actually not a lot out there about the story, and I'm kind of okay with that. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited to go in blind and not really know too much of what's going on. It's a Souls like, so I feel like they're going to develop the story just fine. I think the real like shining aspect of this game though, and you can see that because they're kind of focusing on it the most, is the masks. And I think the masks is what really kind of separates this game from other games in the series.
And I knew that was going to come up. There's some things I have concerns about the mask based off of one of the demo people or somebody got to play the demo and I was watching a little bit about it. So what is the mask element?
So the mask element of the game, and we saw in the trailer that the character had one mask and then did this swipe animation and it changed masks. So that's very very important. And basically, what happens with these masks is that the enemies that you fight throughout the game, there's gonna be specific main game bosses that when you defeat them, they will drop their mask and you get to collect their mask. And once you collect their mask, you now are able to like you now absorb like the abilities of that boss while you're wearing the mask. And I think the idea of it is really, really cool because they're saying that you can swap between 3 different loadouts with these masks, and it's going to vastly be able to change up the gameplay. And that's a big deal for Souls players because we talk about it all the time. If you're playing a Souls like, you typically want to just pick one thing and hammer it. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, okay, this character is a strength character, I am going to level up my vitality, I'm going to level up my stamina, and then I am just going to pound strength into the ground. And you never really get a chance to play the game any other way unless you either one start a new character or two respect your build and do something, completely different with your skill points. This is going to allow you to be able to play the game in a vastly different way without having to do any of that. You can stay on the same character. You don't have to worry about respecking. And I think it's a very interesting kind of way to present the game.
I think that's pretty cool. So, but here's my concern with the mask. So each mask gets a special attack, right? Like you have a power up that each mask will have these charges that you have to kind of work your way through by defeating different enemies and things like that. So what I saw in this is, yes, you have this special ability that you have to charge and special attack, but if you change your mask, you lose that charge completely. You have to start over. So like let's say so if you go through all the like before, like you know how like Souls likes are, you defeat all these little mini people before you get to the big boss.
Yeah.
So let's say like I don't know if this is how it's gonna work, but you're going through these at this playstyle with this mask, you're like it helps get through these enemies. But then you get to the boss, you're like, I need a different playstyle for this boss. And then you change your mask and then you have to restart. Like that charge is gone. I feel like that's kind of annoying.
I didn't know that. That's disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. That's disappointing.
I don't know if that's going to be changed. That was a demo that was a while ago. Like that was a video I watched. The guy played the demo and he's like, "Yeah, that was kind of brutal. Every time I went to go fight a boss, and I changed my mask, everything was gone." So I didn't know if you saw that, but I think that's kind of frustrating and kind of a missed opportunity in terms of like I could see like losing a little bit, like you don't get the full charge if that makes sense. Because I mean that's the same with other games. You change certain things in games, but and you lose the power up. Like in Overwatch, if you change your character, you lose your power up. But I feel like that's a little different though because like it's PvP and like that makes sense. You're losing your strategy for that. But like for me, like if I'm playing a game like this and like I said, you're fighting through these mini people that requires a different strategy, and then you get to the boss and it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna change my strategy, but I lose all my progression of this.
How does that progression happen though?
By killing enemies.
By killing enemies? That's how you get the charge up.
And then you completely lose it is if you switch your mask.
Well, honestly, that like I'm searching for a way to defend that, but that kind of sucks.
And that was early on, so they could probably change that. But I feel like in a game like this, where you don't need to lose that charge completely, if that makes sense. Like I feel like that's one that I can kind of understand it. Like, oh, you should have picked better earlier, and like kind of like it's your fault for not having the right strategy going to the boss in the beginning. But at the same point, it's like I don't think I need to do that. Like I wish I can just like interchangeably like, oh, this would be so cool. I have a charge, but I want to use this mask instead and like use that mask.
I disagree. I disagree with you. I think it is kind of crappy that you can't switch because they're saying that you can switch, but you can fluidly switch between these 3 masks, which is like these 3 loadouts. So that's like I don't know.
That's what I mean. Like I wouldn't be able to do that and not worry about losing my progression of the charge.
Yeah, they better fix that. Guys, if you see this, you better fix that.
I feel like that's frustrating.
If you gain that charge, you shouldn't lose it.
A couple other things I thought were pretty cool about this game, and I don't think I've seen this in other Souls like, but you can attest to this more than I can. The fact that those glyphs on the floor, did you see that where like you see the glyphs and you can like highlight different routes? And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And then another thing is this power of a door, which I think is really, really cool. That you can dynamically like alter reality. So there, you've seen in the trailer that there was a scene of like this guy's at like this. It wasn't in the trailer we watched; it was in a different trailer. But this guy is at like the top of the cliff, and you see this like kind of magic kind of like spear kind of happen. And I think that's really, really interesting. And again, it's an idea that I think is adopted um, from Lords of the Fallen, because we've seen that in Lords of the Fallen with having a an alternate kind of reality when you pop Umbral in Lords of the Fallen. So again, it's like another thing that was kind of borrowed, but again, I'm okay with it because it's like it's like a different way to experience the same world. And like when you pop into this alternate reality, it's like there's new puzzles, there's new secrets, like there's new ways to fight, to fight battles and stuff like that if you've popped into this alternate reality. So kind of like you can almost kind of play the same areas twice when you do this. So you play it through, and then it's like, oh well, I want to play it through again and pop. Like I did that a lot when I played Lords of the Fallen. Like I would play an area, and then I'd be like, well, I want to kind of like pop Umbral and make sure I didn't miss anything. And then you like go through, and it's like you almost get like a chance to replay the same spot right then and there. So I think it's kind of cool. I think it's a very neat mechanic. Again, a borrowed mechanic, but still nonetheless neat.
One more thing, Dave, and I know you're not very strong into this part of Souls-like games, but from what I saw, this game relies heavily on blocks and parries.
It does. So yeah.
Are you ready for that, Dave?
Another thing that was borrowed is the posture bar. So they do have a posture bar, a lot like Sekiro, where you do need to block and parry in order to make this game work. Because a lot of things are going to rely on you breaking that enemy's posture bar. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically when you play Sekiro, you have two bars that you need to pay attention to. One of them is going to be a health bar, which is pretty obvious, and the other is going to be a posture bar. And the way that you interact with these enemies is, number one, when you're in Sekiro, you need to figure out, is this a health enemy or is this a posture enemy? Because there's a lot of different enemies that their health bar is absolutely just ridiculously tanky, and you just kind of like slashing away at them is not going to do anything. You need to get those like perfect blocks and perfect parries to break the posture bar to have a chance against the enemy. And I think this is going to be very much the same way. I don't think that every boss in the game and every enemy in the game is going to rely on this posture bar as much as people might think. There are going to be a lot of health based enemies that you can kind of just run in, slash, and tank. But yeah, there is going to be a posture bar focus. So I'm ready for it. If they do it like Sekiro and make it work, that's going to be just fine. I'm going to be just fine with it. But I will say that they have big shoes to fill. So if you're going to copy Sekiro, you better nail it. You better nail it, because there's nothing more frustrating than and like I say it all the time. I love hard games, but if you're gonna make a hard game, you have to make a hard game that works correctly. I don't want to feel like I'm losing because you're programming. I want to feel like I'm losing because I made a mistake. So if you're gonna copy it, you better nail it.
I'm excited to see it because I know you said that like the first time you ever played Sekiro was a big struggle for you, but then you went back, you're like, I was a champ. Like I was the boss. I knew what I was doing this time. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So maybe it won't be as bad for you the next this come around for this game. So I'm glad you're excited about this one. I was a little worried that you wouldn't be, just to the fact that basically when you sent me that picture, it's like, oh, Dave's not too excited. He's seeing copycat, like I was like, so I think this game's gonna be fun for you to play. And I know we've kind of talked about in the past, like, are there too many of these types of games? And you said there's not enough. And so you're getting your wish, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I really think we're kind of seeing like this genre just become kind of like a staple in the gaming industry, and I think it's kind of cool. It's an exciting time, especially for a player like me that just absolutely eats this stuff up. I could understand how you thought I was going to be a little salty on the game based on the image that I sent over. But like I said, I mean, it's just something that I felt like we needed to talk about, because it's definitely going throughout the community that this game is copying a lot of aspects of other games. Just to throw it out there, there is going to be chain kill incentives, so a lot like Spider-Man, where you're bouncing from enemy to enemy. I mean, so they've kind of borrowed that situation a little bit. There's going to be a buff strategy based on the mask use. I mean, that's borrowed. We saw the images is borrowed, the Sekiro thing borrowed. So like I get it, guys, I get it. They definitely borrowed a lot of aspects. But they borrowed aspects of good games, then they borrowed good mechanics. So I mean, I'm not super salty on it for just borrowing something that works. It's just going to come down to execution. They got to execute.
Yeah, I guess my only fear is like, are they trying to put too much into the game? But based off of what I've seen with the trailers and the demos, I don't think so. I think they're starting to do it pretty well. I really do hope that they fix that mask mechanic where you don't lose your charge every time you switch, because that'd be kind of annoying. Or I think it'd be cool if like you charge up the mask, but when you can charge all three of them up, and if you switch and you have that full charge, you can use it. Does that make sense?
That's a great way to do it. Like you could hold on to the charge for that mask once you get it. Yeah, that would be a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah, instead of resetting if you switch.
Yeah, because resetting it kind of sucks, and it kind of defeats the whole purpose of building the charge, right? The only way that it's gonna be helpful is on subsequent playthroughs where you know that like, okay, for this boss coming up, the best way to do it is with this mask. So I need to be wearing this mask to fight like the scrubs until I get there, so that I know that I have a charge for it, which I mean is fine, but
At the same time, like it'd be cool to be like, oh man, I'm gonna switch right now. Like, let's say you're like Ben 10. You know what I mean? Like you're fighting a flying character, and you're like, well, I can't be a tiger fighting a bird. Like I have to switch to a bird like in the middle of the fight. You know what I mean? Like
right.
that's kind of what I kind of describe. Like that's what I kind of think of as like it's like a instantaneous like I gotta change what I'm doing or I'm gonna die kind of situation. And I think that'd be kind of cool.
I think that's probably the best way to do it. So yeah, guys, if you see this, I mean, that's honestly what I feel like is probably the best way to do it. And yeah, and just real quick, I know some people are talking about the delays on this game. They're a little worried about the delays on this game because this game was actually announced back in 2020. This game has been delayed and has been announced for a long time, but the delays on the game are actually they kind of make sense to me. So their first delay on the game was in 2022, and they delayed the game because of the release of Elden Ring, which I think was very
I think it's warranted.
I think it's very smart on their part that they delayed the game. Uh, Elden Ring would have crushed them. I mean, if it dropped at the same time as Elden Ring, nobody knows what this game is. So I think they made the smart move there. And then after the delay of Elden Ring, or after the drop of Elden Ring, the next delay was they decided that they really do believe in the game. And back in 2020, they were working on Unreal Engine 5 or 4. So the next delay of the game was they decided that they were going to jump to Unreal Engine 5 and make the necessary changes there. So I think both of these delays are not like issues within the developer. I think they were both very smart delays on the developer's part. Number one, skipping the issues of, competing with Elden Ring, and number two, upgrading the gameplay and the mechanics and, all the graphics and stuff like that with the Unreal 5 engine. I think both of those were smart decisions. So I'm not super worried about the delays here. I think if anything, the delays probably made the game a lot better. So
June 21st is when this comes out, so hopefully no more delays and they do have all that figured out. But Dave, this game has some really cool looking masks.
it does indeed have some pretty cool looking masks. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I was looking at a couple of the masks. I feel like a couple of these masks, like maybe could have been on this list because they are pretty sweet. Yeah, they're pretty sweet. But so we decided that we are going to do a blind ranking of the best masks ever.
Yeah. Blind ranking of best video game masks ever.
Would you like to go first or second?
I will go first. Like I will quiz you first, just
All
because I kind of saw a little bit of yours, just because we're doing it based off of pictures this week. Just kind of because I wasn't sure if I'd know all the names of the masks that you were gonna pick, but I actually did know most of them. So we probably didn't need to do it this way, but we did it this way anyway. So
Okay.
all right, Dave, let me pull this over here, share my screen, and your first option is going to be, once I get it, the Aku Aku Max from Crash Bandicoot. Yeah.
Oh man. This is gonna be tough. It's so iconic of my childhood. Like you can't look at that picture without hearing the voice in your head. I'm gonna put it at 3. I'm gonna be
Okay.
safe. I'm
Safe
gonna be
bet.
safe. Yeah, I'm gonna be safe. Put it at 3.
Second choice
Oh
is Cubone's
no.
mask.
I love the lore behind this. I love the lore behind it, but you know I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it at a 4.
4?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna get so roasted. I'm sorry, Pokemon fans. I'm sorry, Pokemon fans.
All right, third option.
5.
5 Metroids. Wow.
That's a 5. It's just kind
Metroid's
of like
Mask is a 5 to you.
it's just kind of generic to me.
Well, then the next one's gonna be even worse. Oh, no, not this one. Not this one. Sorry, Scorpion's Mask.
Oh, that's a clear number 1.
Clear number 1. That's a good point. I'd say that's a good choice there.
Yeah, clear number 1.
All right, this is the one I said that was more generic.
Oh God.
Shy Guy's Mask. That is your number 2.
Mistakes were made, guys. Mistakes were made. Pokemon fans, I'm sorry. I'm sorry
you put
I did
that
you
at
dirty.
4. Yeah, you
I'm
should
sorry
probably
I
put that
did
at
you
2.
dirty.
Okay.
That's a clear 5, by the way. If we're gonna reorder the list.
Yeah.
That's a clear 5. Shy Guys is so generic. Okay. All right, time
I'm
for
doing
Adam.
these basically off of looks because I actually don't remember the name of this one. I have no idea.
Okay.
So what is this one?
Adam's first choice. We have Koru from Dishonored.
Ooh, I like the way this one looks. It's not generic like the other ones that I had you do. It's got kind of a techno robotic feel. I'm gonna put this one at 2, just based off of looks. I like it at 2.
I thought you might like this one because it's like it kind of gives you some like Terminator vibes or like some Doctor Doom kind of vibes, but it's like it strikingly reminds me of like Call of Duty Ghosts a little bit. Yes,
Yeah.
I thought you might like this one. I tried to pick
like
ones
that.
I thought you would like.
Yeah. Jason.
Number
talk
2.
About, sorry, you have to introduce it.
Number 2, Jason Voorhees.
Talk about a little bit generic, mask wise.
You think it's generic?
I mean, it kind of is. This is a hockey mask.
I thought it was iconic.
It's iconic for sure. And I think, although, let's say you didn't have his back, you know what I mean? Like, if you didn't see his character behind it, it'd be pretty generic. But knowing who that is, I'll put it at a 3.
Putting it at a 3?
Put it at a 3.
That's probably a safe bet.
All right, next one.
Okay, next one up. We, of course, had to go with Majora's Mask.
Can I ask what game this is from?
Zelda. Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask.
I
No?
did not know that. It's cool looking.
He hates it.
I don't quite understand it.
He hates
but
it.
I feel like I can't put it at 5 because I'm gonna make a lot of people mad. So I'll put it at a 4.
You're gonna put it at a 4?
Yeah. Oh, wait,
Okay.
What did I put? Oh, I put Jason at 4. So I can't put it at a 4. I guess I'm putting it at a 5.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, little Ryu. Ninja Gaiden.
Ryu's really cool. Yeah. Oh man, what is I don't remember the last one that you gave me. I'll put it at a 2. I like.
You're gonna put it at a 2?
I like the cool, like the thing on top of his head. I think that's
it's
really cool.
Sweet, right? I think it's sweet.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's my number 1 yet. Oh wait, did I mess this up again? Did I put this one at 2?
Yeah, you put that one at 2.
2, 4, 5. So I have a 3 and 1. So
you
I'll
have
put
a 3
this
and a 1.
I'll put Ryu at 3. I think that's a good choice.
You are going to hate your number 1 pick. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam's number 1 mask of all time, of course, is the Soul of Cinder from DS3. And I could not be happier right now.
I'm not going to say I'm super disappointed, only because it's a pretty iconic mask in terms of video games and stuff like that.
I
So
think it's
I'm
pretty
okay with it.
badass. You
I
like
was
you
gonna
don't
say,
like
it
it?
looks really cool. I do like it. I'm okay with this being my number 1, and number 2 is the one from Dishonored. I'm okay with this list.
I think this list is good, dude. I think Soul of Cinder is pretty badass. That's a bad. If you saw that guy coming at you, you would be like, I am afraid.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that was a good choice. But let us know any other cool mask or how you would do that order. It was kind of hard, to be honest. And the fact that we did it with pictures, not just off memory, was a little bit more challenging to do this draft.
It was a little,
ranking.
it was a little bit more challenging, but I think the pictures kind of helped along just so we could all enjoy these masks together because a lot of them are pretty iconic. So,
Okay, next thing is nothing. We are done with the episode. What a wonderful episode tonight. I had tons of fun. I hope that didn't deter anybody. Like, oh, what's next? And it's the ending. That's what's next.
Next is nothing. Yeah, great episode, dude. Great episode. Guys, thank you so much. We super appreciate you guys. Last thing here, if you could possibly, I was kind of taking a look at our YouTube, and we have quite a few viewers that haven't subscribed yet. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, we would really appreciate it. It really does help the channel grow. Means a lot to us if you wouldn't mind doing that. Last but not least, please remember that the Discord is up and running. Brand new stuff on the Discord, and we would love to see you there. Love you guys very, very much. Thank you for everything. Adam, what you got for him?
If you're not following us on all social media, make sure to do so. Let's Talk Nerdy Podcast. And like Dave said, check out the Discord. We'd love to have you there. And at the time of the filming of this, Dave, we are at 1,499 subscribers. So like Dave said, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. We would love that to have you part of the nerdy family. And that's all
you got a chance to be 1,500. Just throwing it out there.
Yep.
Lucky number
so
1,500.
I
don't know
hope
if that
we get more
means
than one. More than one in 6 days before this gets posted. But you could be number 1,500.
You could be. I mean, if maybe we should do some early access. Well, early access episodes in the Discord.
Yep, there you go. Perfect.
But love you guys very, very much. Thank you for everything, and we shall see y'all on the next one.
Peace out, nerds.
Dun, 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 dun.